Welcome back to Study Hall. Everyone ready for another deep dive? Today we're taking a look at something uh, intriguing, to say the least.
Yeah.
The president's new executive order on, well, they're calling it government efficiency.
Mm-hmm.
But officially, it's the DOGE agenda.
The DOGE agenda.
You heard that right, DOGE.
Seems like the White House is embracing the internet humor these days.
It seems that way, doesn't it?
Oh,
But memes aside, this order aims to completely overhaul how the federal government uses technology, software, the whole nine yards. The goal,
efficiency.
boosting efficiency and productivity. So buckle up. We're going to explore the potential benefits, the inevitable hurdles, and of course, what this all means for you.
Absolutely. It's certainly, well, it's a bold move, to say the least. I mean, using a term like DOGE in such a formal context, it's almost like they're trying to break away from that traditional, bureaucratic image.
Right.
But let's get past the catchy name and actually look at the substance of the order.
Exactly. So this executive order, it lays out some pretty specific actions. One that really stood out to me was, well, renaming the United States Digital Service, the USDS.
Right.
It's now the United States DOGE service. So can you maybe explain what the USDS even is and, what's its role in this whole DOGE agenda?
Sure. So the USDS was originally established to bring modern technology practices, modern design practices into the federal government.
Okay.
Think of them as like a team of tech-savvy problem solvers.
Okay.
They're trying to make government services more user-friendly, more efficient.
Right.
And with this whole DOGE agenda, they've been given, well, even more authority and responsibility. They're essentially leading this whole digital transformation across all federal agencies.
Got it. So the USDS is like the, the quarterback of this whole operation.
You could say that, yeah.
Okay. But the order also creates like a whole new entity, the USDOGE Service Temporary Organization. And it's only set to operate for 18 months.
Yeah, that's right.
So what's the thinking behind this temporary structure?
Well, it seems like they're going for a very focused approach, almost surgical.
Yeah.
This temporary organization, it's designed to avoid getting bogged down by, the usual bureaucratic processes.
Yeah, right.
They want to move quickly and decisively, and it suggests, I think, a real sense of urgency. They want to make, significant progress within this limited time frame.
Like they're creating, a SWAT team for government efficiency.
It's exactly.
But, 18 months to revamp the entire federal government's digital infrastructure? It seems like a really tight deadline.
It does, yeah.
What happens after that? Does everything just, go back to the old ways?
That's the big question, isn't it? And the order itself, it doesn't really address what happens after this 18-month period.
Yeah.
But it strongly emphasizes that, they want to achieve all of the DOGE agenda objectives within that time frame. So you can kind of infer that this temporary organization is meant to, lay the groundwork for long-term modernization. It's like they're building a foundation, trying to establish a new way of doing things with this initial push.
Interesting. It sounds like they're hoping to create a, like a lasting shift in how the government approaches technology.
Right.
Even if this specific organization is temporary. But how do they actually plan to implement these changes across, this vast network of federal agencies? We're talking about a massive undertaking here.
Oh, absolutely. It's huge. So to tackle this, the order mandates the formation of, well, they're called DOGE teams within each agency.
Right.
And each team has to have at least 4 members, a DOGE team lead, an engineer, a human resources specialist, and an attorney.
It's interesting that they're including, expertise from all these different fields, not just focusing on technology.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That does seem like a, well-rounded approach, making sure they're considering not just the technical stuff, but also the legal and human resources implications.
Exactly.
But wouldn't having all these teams, across all these different agencies, wouldn't that create a potential coordination nightmare?
Well, that's where the USDS comes in.
Yeah.
The order designates them as like the central coordinating body for this whole DOGE agenda. So these DOGE teams, they have to work with the USDS to ensure, alignment across agencies. It's like they're trying to create this network of change agents all working together to, achieve this goal of digital transformation.
Okay, so the USDS is calling the shots, but the DOGE teams within each agency are doing the actual work.
Exactly.
Makes sense. But I have to admit, I'm a little wary about how much access they're giving to this USDS administrator.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the order gives them extensive access to, agency systems and data.
Yeah.
And while that might be necessary to, identify inefficiencies and implement changes, it also raises some concerns about data privacy.
We are talking about sensitive information here.
Oh, absolutely. You've hit on a really crucial point. The order does address this. It mandates that the USDS adhere to, strict data protection standards. So they're aware of the sensitivity around, the government accessing data. But it is worth noting that, this order grants access to unclassified systems,
Right.
and it even overrides any previous regulations that might, hinder that access.
That is a bit concerning. While I appreciate the emphasis on transparency and access, to facilitate this modernization, overriding existing regulations to give that much access to a single entity does seem, I don't know, a little bit risky.
It's definitely something to watch, yeah. It's a classic dilemma, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Weighing the potential benefits of streamlining government operations, but also the potential risks of granting broader access to, potentially sensitive information.
It's really important that we, as citizens, stay informed about these developments and make sure we engage in this conversation so that our concerns are heard.
Absolutely. I mean, this is where, informed citizenry comes in.
Absolutely.
We need to understand the nuances of this order, the potential benefits, and also the associated risks to, really effectively engage in this conversation.
Yeah.
And hold our government accountable.
Exactly. The success of this whole thing, it'll depend on not just the government's ability to, implement it effectively, but also the public's understanding and engagement.
So it seems like we have a lot to unpack here. I mean, on the one hand, we have this ambitious agenda with the potential to, really revolutionize how the government works, making it more efficient, user-friendly, responsive.
Right.
But on the other hand, we have these legitimate concerns about data privacy, the concentration of power, and, the potential for things to go wrong.
Exactly. And that's why we're here, to really delve into these complexities and shed light on the issues that matter most. It's important to remember this DOGE agenda isn't, happening in isolation. It's part of a larger trend. Governments all over the world are embracing technology.
Makes sense. I mean, we live in an increasingly digital world.
Mm-hmm.
People expect things to happen quickly, seamlessly. I mean, it's only natural that those expectations carry over to, how they interact with their government.
Exactly. And this push for modernization, it's not just about keeping up with the times.
Right.
It's about making sure that governments can actually address these complex challenges.
What kind of challenges?
Oh, climate change, economic instability, cybersecurity threats. Governments need the right tools, the right systems to respond effectively, especially in a world that's changing so rapidly.
So this DOGE agenda, it's kind of like an investment in the future, laying the groundwork for, a more agile government, adaptable, resilient.
Precisely. But let's zoom back in on this executive order and how it might affect you.
Okay.
We were talking about potential conflicts, right, between the USDS administrator and agency heads.
Yeah.
This order, it gives the administrator a lot of authority, especially when it comes to accessing, agency systems and data. And while that's crucial for, identifying inefficiencies and making changes, it could also lead to some friction.
I mean, if agency heads feel like their autonomy is being threatened, or if they have concerns about, misuse of sensitive information.
Exactly. Finding that balance, between empowering the USDS to actually do its job, but also respecting the existing structures, the leadership within these agencies is key. Clear communication, collaboration, a shared understanding of the goals, all of that is essential to avoid unnecessary conflict and ensure, a smoother process.
So trust is a big factor here.
Oh, absolutely. The USDS needs to build trust with the agencies they're working with, and the government as a whole, they need to maintain public trust throughout this entire process.
How do they do that?
Transparency, being upfront about their intentions, a real commitment to protecting privacy, and being open to feedback, from both agency personnel and the public. That's paramount, especially when you're dealing with such sensitive data.
Speaking of the public, what's the general reaction been to this DOGE agenda?
Well, it's definitely sparked a lot of conversation. As we mentioned before, it's a mixed bag. Some people, they're excited about the potential, a more efficient government, a more modern government, but others, they're worried about, what it means for privacy, potential government overreach.
It's a valid concern.
Absolutely. I mean, think about it. Would you feel comfortable with the government having more access to your data, even if they say, they'll protect it?
That's a tough one. I think a lot of people are taking a wait-and-see approach.
It makes sense.
They want to see how this actually played out.
Yeah, I think that's understandable. The success of this initiative, it really comes down to execution. If the government can show, real improvements in efficiency, service delivery, data protection, they'll likely gain public support.
Makes sense.
But if there are, major hiccups, data breaches, if people start feeling like the government is overstepping its bounds, well, there could be significant backlash.
So as this DOGE agenda unfolds, what should we be looking out for? What are some signs that, things are headed in the right direction or maybe veering off course?
I'd say there are a few key areas to focus on. First, progress updates. How effectively is the USDS working with these agencies? Are they meeting their deadlines? What kind of roadblocks are they running into?
Yeah, we need to see if they're actually, walking the walk, not just talking the talk.
Yeah, exactly. Second, data security measures. What steps are they taking to protect privacy, to secure the sensitive data? Are there, robust safeguards in place to prevent breaches, to prevent misuse? That's critical, especially given the concerns we've already talked about.
For sure.
And lastly, public engagement. Is the government actively seeking feedback from citizens? Are they addressing these concerns about privacy and transparency? Are they actually making an effort to involve the public in this process?
So we need to see if they're really committed to, transparency and accountability.
Exactly. Or if this is just, a top-down initiative where they don't really care about public input. This DOGE agenda, it has the potential to really reshape how our government operates. So it's crucial for us as citizens to stay informed, ask questions, and hold our leaders accountable.
So it's not just about, sitting back and watching. It's about actively participating, shaping the future of our government.
Precisely. This is a powerful reminder that our government is supposed to be, for the people, by the people. And that means we have a responsibility to engage in the process, hold our leaders accountable, and make sure they're working in our best interests.
This whole conversation has been incredibly insightful. I feel like I went from being kind of bewildered by this whole DOGE agenda to, actually understanding its goals, its potential impact, and the importance of, staying informed and engaged as this all unfolds.
I'm glad to hear that. It's always rewarding to, delve into these complex topics, uncover those nuances that people often miss, and empower people to become more informed and engaged citizens.
This has been fascinating, really. And I feel like, I don't know, we've only just scratched the surface here. For our listeners who, maybe want to dig a little deeper into this whole DOGE agenda thing, where should they start?
Well, I always say, go right to the source. The executive order, it's publicly available. It's a little dense, but it lays it all out. The goals, the actions, the authority they're giving to the USDS. And beyond that, there's tons of info online, news articles, analysis from think tanks. You can even find, social media discussions about it.
Yeah.
But word of caution, be discerning. Look for different viewpoints. Don't just accept everything at face value. Critically evaluate the information you come across.
That's such a good point. It's so easy to get, swept up in the hype or the fear-mongering. But we got to stay grounded, right? Form our own opinions based on evidence.
Absolutely. And remember, you're not just a spectator here. You can reach out to your elected officials. Tell them what you think, your concerns, your questions. They need to hear from their constituents, about how these changes might actually affect their lives and what they expect from their government.
So it's not just about staying informed. It's about, making our voices heard.
Exactly. It's a good reminder that our government is supposed to be for the people, by the people. So we have a responsibility to, be part of this process, hold our leaders accountable, make sure they're working for us.
This whole conversation has been so enlightening. We've explored the potential benefits, right? We've talked about the concerns, the role of, informed citizens in all of this. And it's clear that this initiative, even with its, kind of absurd name, it has the potential to really change how our government works.
Yeah.
And how we interact with it.
I think that's right. And it's why these conversations, they're so important. We shed light on these complicated topics. We help people understand the nuances. And, ultimately, we empower individuals with knowledge. And hopefully we create more informed and engaged citizens who can help shape a future that works for everyone.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And to our listeners, thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive into, the President's DOGE agenda. I hope you found it informative, thought-provoking, all of that. Remember, knowledge is power. Stay engaged and help shape a future that reflects your values and serves your needs. Until next time, keep those minds curious and keep exploring.